Everybody, welcome to Kingdom of Honor. I'm your host, Sandman Shane Sabrina. Welcome, my good buddy, the Honorable Jeff.
Hello.
And Jeff, I know we got a lot to talk to this week, but I wanted to just I was watching a little bit of All Night Long Wrestling podcast right before I got the meeting set up this morning, and they were talking about if CM Punk doesn't show up next week on Rampage, it's going to be a disappointment. And I think at this point you kind of have to say yes with all the stuff people are expecting in Chicago and all that stuff. And so then the conversation kind of turned to, well, the crowd's going to be chanting CM Punk the whole night, right? So, how do you do that? Do you open with a hot match? Do you open with him? What do you do? And so I just wanted to throw a little bit of a fantasy booking idea for it out to you and see what you think. So I think for the second time ever, you don't open an AEW show with your usual opening. I think what you do is you have the entire arena dark. And then when the lights come on, you have a figure cross-legged sitting in the middle of the ring with shorts on and a hoodie up over his head. With his head bowed down, and the figure lifts his head up, flips the hood back, and it's not CM Punk, it's Darby Allin. And he says, "Do I have everybody's attention now?" Just like CM Punk did, 10 years ago on the Raw after he made the pipe bomb announcement. And then he starts maybe cutting a promo, and then Punk maybe shows up later on in the show or shortly after.
The only problem with that is that Darby Allin is not a heel. And that would be a dickish move that would instantly turn him heel, especially in Chicago. Okay,
go ahead.
I think if they're going to do something like that, to actually have it be CM Punk sitting in the ring, and then cut a quick promo, and then maybe Darby, because Darby's going to get booed in Chicago regardless.
Right.
But if he were to be the guy sitting in the ring, instant heel and never comes back from it in Chicago at least. But if it is really CM Punk sitting in the ring and then Darby cuts him off during his promo, then that could work where he would still be not the dickish heel, but he's going to be the heel in that situation anyway because it is CM Punk.
Yeah, I don't see any way to avoid Darby being a heel for that show, for the two Dynamites before All Out, or the Dynamite and the Rampage before All Out, and then for All Out itself. There's just no way.
No, especially unless he's not involved with Darby or in his opening feud, but Darby just kind of like, look, I want to see if I can hang with the best in the world, that type of thing.
That would be kind of lame considering he's already hanging with Sting all the time.
Yeah, but Sting doesn't call himself the best in the world.
But you know what I'm saying is like, but when you say hang with, I think like hanging out with, and that's what I'm.
Oh,
like,
no. In hang with him in the ring.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I mean, I get it from the moment he dropped his little thing. He's going to be the heel against CM Punk. There's just no way he's not.
Right.
Especially in Chicago. But I think if they were to open up with him doing the post pipe bomb thing, that would be, first of all, it's not his character. Secondly, it's would be beyond repairable in Chicago.
No, it is his character. He impersonates guys all the time. He's never had it before. He has not impersonated one. Or at least he'll do like a video where he's wearing like their face, the cut out of their face and stuff in his skateboarding shit. He does it in every one of his feuds. So it actually is in his character to impersonate his opponent.
In a video, not in the middle of the ring.
Oh, come on.
To me, that just would not work. It would not be it would not go well for Darby. But that's my opinion. I mean, I like I think if they are going to do it, and AEW does not normally tease big surprises and things like that, unless it's Tony Khan's going to be here with a big announcement. Typically, they deliver when they tease a big thing like that. So,
yeah, they do, but they have not specifically said CM Punk's going to be there. They've just hinted at it very strong.
Well, and they did. they named it the first dance. There's a lot of stuff that is pointing to him being at Rampage. And I just can't see AEW going through that kind of buildup and not delivering CM Punk. I think unless they want to have a WWE hijacked program, he is going to have to open the show.
I agree. I mean, Bryan Danielson is one of the most popular wrestlers in the world, but if he ends up being the guy and not CM Punk there, he's going to get booed out of it.
Yeah, he's going to get booed out of the building too. I mean, if it's not CM Punk at Rampage in Chicago, there is going to be a ridiculous amount of backlash to everybody else on that show. And it's going to be nonstop CM Punk chants, like you said, the whole show until he shows up. So unless, the WWE fans have taken over broadcasts in the past, especially the Raw after both Bryan Danielson and CM Punk, it was announced that they'd both signed with AEW. That next Raw, the entire show was just about the fans chanting CM Punk and Daniel Bryan for the entire show. And it really hijacked the show. And I really think that AEW doesn't want to have that happen to their program.
It did already, though. It did on Dynamite.
Yeah, but not the whole show.
No,
yeah,
no, but I mean, when you got, the number one contender for the world title going in there confronting the world champion, and the crowd is chanting CM Punk.
Right.
That's not a good situation.
So they need to nip it now and debut him. The very first opening shot of Dynamite needs to be CM Punk.
Rampage,
yeah, needs to be CM Punk, or even the let's say they close Dynamite with a video of him walking into the United Center.
Yeah.
Something like that. They if they were to do that, then it doesn't matter what they do, to be honest, that they're going to chant CM Punk's name until he shows up on the program. So I think a good way to do it would be to, cut to a video of him walking into a building, then they pan out and they see it's the United Center. And then they open the United Rampage with, like you said, maybe him sitting in the middle of the ring in his classic pose, or even at the top of the ramp or something like that. But either way,
giving the impression that he was sitting in the United Center for 3 days waiting for.
But how cool would that be? And I mean, it's not like the show is probably recording a dark elevation before it, because it starts at 9:00 at night. So there's probably a couple of hours of wrestling before that.
Yeah, I do like the idea of CM Punk showing up at the end of Dynamite, at least like in a smiling, like see in Chicago thing or something like that, just to kind of give the absolute certainty, yes, he is going to be there.
Yeah, because otherwise they run the risk of that show just being hijacked and being nothing but the crowd chanting CM Punk for an hour.
Right.
And it could be it could turn ugly fast. Really ugly, really fast.
And you mentioned Dark Elevation a minute ago, and I just wanted to say that I think for the first time ever in the history of that program, I'm actually going to watch it this week, because there's a big debut happening this week on Dark Elevation that I'm excited to see.
Who's that?
Kira Hogan is facing off against Hikaru Shida on Dark Elevation this week.
Kira Hogan, huh?
Yeah.
It makes sense. They have their back and forth with Impact, so I don't know.
No. She's done with it.
Oh, she is.
Yep.
I thought she was a tag team title holder.
They lost the tag titles to Rosemary and Havoc at the last pay-per-view. They lost the rematch for them, and then Tasha Steelz just turned on her last week.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've never been a huge Kira Hogan fan. I think it's maybe more her character that I didn't like than her skills, but
I like everything about her, and I think that she immediately becomes one of the top 5 women wrestlers on that roster. So I think that's pretty cool.
I'll have to see. But to be honest, I've actually been kind of checking out Dark and Elevation from time to time. You know, just kind of flipping it on, having it go in the background so I can follow the storylines.
Yeah.
And it's really not as bad a show as I would have thought it was. It's just way too much of a time commitment is the problem. But when I can kind of have it in the background and then watch the matches that I want to watch, you know, like we found out this week that Dante Martin and Darius, I didn't realize that Darius Martin, and I'm talking about Dark Elevation because that's where Dante really got his mojo and started to become this superstar that we saw on Dynamite this last week.
Yeah.
And if people don't recognize him as a superstar after that match against the Elite, there's something really wrong with wrestling fans. Because Dante Martin, and they did everything they could to put him over. They gave him the hangman treatment, where it took the top 3 wrestlers in the promotion to take him out, and everything. I mean, Dante Martin came out of that looking like the future of the business.
And you said like 3 weeks ago that you saw that his ceiling was going to be Matt Sydal. So
that's kind of what I thought too. But after seeing this match, they've got big plans for him, big plans, because you don't do what they did to a Matt Sydal.
right.
And what they did, they gave him the hangman treatment. They gave him the Adam Page treatment, which has him marked as a future superstar. But
yeah, I could see, you know, I think them again. I think, you know, in a couple of years, Top Flight against the Young Bucks is going to be just a fantastic tag.
oh, absolutely. Well, and it was the first time we saw it. Remember, they debuted against the Bucks, and I
Right,
remember saying,
but I mean like a high level epic style tag.
yeah. I mean, I remember saying when they debuted against the Bucks that was one of the better debuts I've ever seen. I'm really looking forward to this tag team. And it was funny because a few years ago when we were watching MLW religiously, there was a young kid from Minneapolis, Minnesota that had debuted. He was 18 years old. His name was Airwolf? Yeah, it was Airwolf. Finding out this week that that's actually Darius Martin, and Darius and Dante are from our home state. It just makes me like those guys even more, because I loved Airwolf. He was one of my favorite parts of MLW when he was on there, and to find out that that's actually Darius Martin just kind of blew me away.
Yeah, and we had an event here about 2 years ago in a town close to us where there's a casino called it was called Fortune Bania or something like that.
Okay.
Or Fortune Bay Mania 3 or something. And I had told you that I was excited that I could see Airwolf wrestle live. So it's kind of cool so it's really kind of cool to go, oh yeah, he is from and I was told at the time he was from Minnesota. And they had said that on MLW, but I had no idea that they were the same guy, you know.
Yeah, I didn't either. I guess I didn't realize. Did they ever announced Top Flight as being from Minnesota? If they did, I missed it completely.
I don't remember them ever saying that before.
Yeah, so it's like it just caught me off guard because I saw a tweet from Darius Martin actually, and it was congratulating his brother on you know his performance and everything. And when I looked at his Twitter handle, it said Airwolf in it. I'm like, what? So I started Googling Darius Martin and found out that, you know, that he was Airwolf, which really surprised me because I thought when he was 18 and performing the way he was in MLW, I was impressed with the kid. So that was just kind of one of those cool little things. And you did a perfect bridge to another topic I wanted to talk about there with Fortune Bay Mania.
Okay.
And that is Triplemania.
Yeah.
Sucked that it wasn't free on YouTube. We got our signal, we got our information wrong, and it was free on YouTube if you lived in Mexico. Not free on YouTube in the US.
Yeah, I feel really bad about that. I do really apologize for that because I touted the last 2 weeks like it's a free, you know, major wrestling show. Watch it, and turns out, like Jeff said, it was actually only free in Mexico to watch live, but it's actually on YouTube right now. You know, it's actually on there right now. If you want to go find it, it's there. Except for the opening match. The opening match was on the one that I, but maybe it's on another one. Sorry, go ahead.
And that's where I wanted to go with that is I watched the Omega Andrade match this morning.
Okay.
And there's a few things about it I really do want to talk about. First of all, it didn't live up to my expectations. I thought it was good. It was a good match, nowhere near as good as I thought it was going to be.
I think the reason for that is because we were anticipating it being an epic level main event style match.
Right,
where,
exactly.
Where really what these guys did was showcase how good that they can actually wrestle a semi-main event match. Like they can actually
Yep.
like put that like those they can still like wrestle a world title match and still make it mean something, still make it feel like still make it be a really good match, but also leaving the crowd wanting more, knowing that there's still a main event.
Right. Yeah, and it was a little weird seeing Kenny being in a 20-minute match on a pay-per-view.
It was.
I'm not used to him being in matches that short. You know, I mean the total runtime was like 34 minutes or something like that, but 9 minutes of it was them walking to the ring, and the introductions and everything. But it still wasn't.
But what a moment that was with those introductions. What a moment that was when Andrade came out, and then you hear Ric Flair's music start, and then Flair comes out. You know, I mean, that was just the crowd erupted. The announcers erupted, and I don't speak Spanish, guys, but those announcers are just great. They are so excited. They really make it fun to watch. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, the thing about that, and that was another thing I wanted to talk about. It made sense having Flair second Andrade. You know, Flair was going to get a great face pop and everything, and you know, it's basically his son-in-law, so it made sense. And I loved the spot in the middle when they did the stereo chops to Omega, and then the stereo figure four. It was a little painful watching Ric Flair struggle so hard to get a figure four on, but dude's 73 years old, so it made sense. But I thought that was a really good moment, cool moment. The part of that whole thing that threw me was Conan being in Kenny Omega's corner. Complete opposite of his performance on AEW and MLW lately, and Impact for that matter. It was complete opposite, making him be the face, or you know, him play the heel. And in Mexico, is he really considered a top heel in Mexico?
I think he has been, but I don't think he is right now. I don't know.
It was just weird
I
seeing
thought he was either owner or a partial owner of AAA actually.
So him backing the bad American made no sense to me. It was just confusing to me.
Yeah, there was that opening.
Well,
there was that scene before there was the tag title match, right? And then
right.
then between the tag title match and the Mega Championship match, there was like a 6-man scramble in between there, like a six man lucha libre style tag match. But between those two matches, there was a segment where Conan went to talk to Andrade, and Andrade kicked him out of the dressing room. So that might have been kind of led to it, where Conan was like, okay, well, if you don't want me to back you, I'll back me. You know.
Yeah, it still didn't make sense to me though. It just it was kind of weird seeing those two together. I don't know.
No, it was.
It was like
I do agree with you. I do agree it was odd. And I just think like if we spoke Spanish, maybe they would have explained it. It would have made more sense to us. You know.
maybe, yeah, maybe.
And I did, but I was actually surprised to see Conan take a bump, to get flat back bump, because I didn't think he could. That kind of scared me a little bit.
Yeah, and to have it come from one of the weakest Ric Flair's chops I've ever seen in my life. And I did say him backing the evil American. It's actually the evil Canadian. Since Kenny is not American, he's Canadian. But
he lives in North Carolina. So.
No, he's not from North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
And I was really hoping to hear that. I was really hoping to hear the Spanish announcers say that, because that would have. Well, I was a little disappointed on Rampage when the new female announcer didn't do the North Carolina bit. And then I was really hoping to hear the Spanish announcers do it, and then have Ric Flair, who that is considerably a jab against Ric Flair, and have Ric Flair come out against him. It would have been really cool too. But yeah, I thought the match was good, just not the level of good I was hoping for.
Right.
I thought there was some really fun spots. The one thing that I'm going to suggest to Andrade is he needs to make that moonsault landing on his feet to the standing moonsault um, a special occasion and not every single match, because it's starting to get unbelievable that every single one of his matches, nobody thinks to roll in. They all roll out, and he's the only person that ever happens to. When it happens every single match, it becomes unbelievable. So he's going to have to space that move out and maybe not do it every single match like he's been doing.
Right, because we've seen Sammy and Will do that as well in their matches, but like you said, it's not in every single match.
Right, right. And I know I get it. It's one of his signature moves, but it's got to be a signature move where it's not in every single match. Maybe like every third or fourth match or something like that. Being in every match is starting to become a little bit unbelievable that nobody would think, hey, you know what? I know what he does here, so I'm going to roll in instead of rolling out.
Okay, so I agree with you, but I also point out that we've only seen him wrestle like 3 matches in the last year. and
Right,
also
true.
and also this is his first match in Mexico in probably probably since he signed with NXT, right? Since he was in a CMLL ring. So if he
Right.
hadn't done that spot, the other crowd probably would have been.
Okay, I can't stop this thing from coming into the camera. So I've been trying for the last 5 minutes. It's just not going to happen.
You have serious ass pussy controlling problems.
Jesus, this cat. And it's not quitting. It's coming back again. It's just not quitting.
That the other thing that like really threw me about both that match and the women's title match is I did not understand the whole evil ref thing. I mean, I'm sure there's a backstory behind it, and I'm sure if I was more fluent in AAA, I would get it. But it's just so odd to have a referee that just is always always just seems to be working with the heels. Slow
Yeah,
slow counting the faces, fast counting for the heels. Um, ignoring the heel, doing shenanigans. Just
who was
so odd.
the NWO? Nick Patrick. It kind of reminded me of a Nick Patrick thing. So I don't know if they've got kind of an NWO type storyline going on with him, like they did with Nick Patrick being the evil ref. Oh my God, Cat. Seriously.
Well, even if they did, Kenny and Brianna Peraza were not part of that faction.
Exactly. So, well, yeah, true. And I didn't get a chance. I mean, it being that it was in Spanish and the only place I could watch it was Twitch. I wasn't able to do what I thought I was going to be able to do. So I haven't seen the whole thing yet. I'm going to watch now that I see that they're all individually on YouTube. I will be watching all the matches. But yeah, that I definitely wanted to make sure that I was able to watch the main event, or not the main event, I guess, because it was a semi-main. It wasn't actually the main event.
Yeah, the mega championship.
Yeah.
I thought the card was fantastic. I mean, there was a couple of things that I thought. I kind of thought the show should have ended after the mega championship match because I did not really care at all for the hair versus mask match. But I mean, you can watch it if you feel differently. The women's match only got like 7 minutes, and like I said, the evil ref thing just kind of threw me in that one. So I really didn't like that one. But everything else on the card, I really enjoyed watching.
The other match that I did watch, that I was able to watch it live, was that opening match, their Marvel match that they did. I thought that was really well done. It was kind of weird seeing Brian Cage in there. The one thing that I was a little taken back by is Brian Cage is in there just decimating everybody. And then Hulk comes out, so he just stops. He just stops and stares at Hulk. And it was why? It made no sense to me. They didn't fight. They didn't throw hands. Nothing. They just
it would have made more sense if they like battled to the outside or something. They were fighting out there.
Right. But just to stare at each other the way that they did. Okay, yeah. Cat. I'm gonna have to love on the cat for a little bit. Hopefully, it'll go away then.
Maybe they're trying to set up a big match in the future between Hulk and Thanos, or Purple Destroyer, or whatever the thing was called. But
well, and the thing that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked like Spider-Man was Fuego del Sol. his
Uh,
movement and everything.
I
It
think
just
somebody
felt
else.
like
I think somebody else in the chat had said it was Viking.
it was who?
Elijo de Viking.
Oh, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I got the feeling that it was Fuego del Sol. The way that he moved and his body type and everything. Just I thought it was Fuego.
Yeah, so I think that, well, and if that's true, that means that I mean, if it really was Viking, then that means that he and Brian Cage both did double duty that last night.
Brian Cage was on there twice last night.
Well, remember I told you that Black Taurus had a mystery partner?
Oh yeah, it was
That
Brian.
was Brian. It was
It
Brian.
was Brian.
Yeah.
It's nice to see that there still is, like, because we were kind of wondering. We knew there was a cross promotion with the two, but it was not what we thought it was, and it really hasn't been. So it was nice to see a lot of AEW talent and Impact talent on the show.
Yeah, and actually, if you had pressed me to tell you who Black Taurus' mystery partner was going to be, I would have said Brian. So.
Oh really?
Yeah, because I was thinking, well, it's not going to be Crazy Steve. I was like, who else could work that luchador style down there? I was like, oh yeah, it's probably going to be Brian. So that's what I was kind of thinking in the back of my mind. So it did not surprise me that it actually, you know.
By the way, this whole cat situation I'm dealing with right now happens
Yeah.
3 times a day during work. Literally 3 times a day.
Congratulations.
She gets it. She gets in her little needy spots, and I cannot get rid of her. Are you done now? Thank you. Sorry.
You know what? We talked a little bit about Dynamite, and like I and I feel like Dynamite was again a really good show, but I still I'm struggling to remember what happened. I mean I know we got the the rest. I know we got the fourth labor of Jericho, which is just pretty much awful. But
Right.
but I don't remember what else happened on the show other than those 2 segments, and I should. I know I should, but maybe I just watched too much wrestling this week.
I think that's what it was too, because before we started talking, I was actually, before the cat started attacking, I was actually trying to look up Dynamite to see the matches that were on it.
Yeah, because I mean I watched it in the GPW. I watched Triplemania last night. I watched Rampage. So I feel like I should like remember what happened, but I really don't. Oh, we had the Impact Tag Title match on there too. That's right. Remember that?
Oh yeah, yep. And that's Grayson and Evil Uno are 2 people that deserve a stronger title push or a stronger tag team push. They are so good. And I forgot that they were that good because we haven't really seen them. More of the focus in the tag team has been on Silver and I can't remember the guy's last name. I can never remember his last name.
Alex Reynolds. John Silver and
Alex Reynolds. Yeah, they've been the majority of the tag teams, but Stu and Evil Uno are amazing tag team, and they really need to start getting more of a tag team run.
I think it's kind of funny that we saw Silver and Reynolds in that one match in what the hell was that company called? Shit. The one that WWE Evolve. We saw the one tag match in Evolve, remember? And we were like, these guys would be great if they had some personality. And now they're nothing but personality.
Right. Yeah, especially Jonathan Silver. I mean,
yeah.
He's like a little ball of personality.
He is, but then you got like that dry humor from Reynolds too. So I mean, they both developed quite a character the last couple of years in EW. So.
Yep.
Go ahead.
The fourth labor of Jericho, which to me ended up being a disappointment because I truly felt like MJF was supposed to be the referee for it, not just kind of standing in Wardlow's corner. It actually, I would have rather, if that's what he was going to do, I would have rather had him be in the announcing booth, like he's been for the last couple of Jericho matches. Because I think when he's in the booth, he brings so much to the broadcast. It seemed like just a kind of an awful stipulation, Like, oh, the stipulation is I'm going to be ringside.
Well, and you know what? This is the third out of the four. There's been 4 Labors of Jericho, and through all three out of the four, I've had a problem with the stipulation. You know, the first one was the chair match with Sean Spears, and I'm like,
Right.
well, why the fuck is he using the chair the entire match? You know, he'll hit him
Right.
with a chair and he'll try to wrestle. Well, why? Why would anyone do that? It made no
When
logical sense why he would do
when
it.
you can legally use the chair, why don't you use the chair?
Right,
Yeah, I had a problem with that too.
and I feel like they could have. I feel like they could have wrestled. They could have gotten around that, but they didn't do that. Like you know, Spears would get him down, like pick up the chair, hit him one time, and then drop the chair and start wrestling. It's like, why wouldn't you just do like what Austin did to the Rock at WrestleMania? Some people will be shit out of the guy with the chair when he's on the ground. You know, the second Labor of Jericho I had a problem with because they said that no member of the inner
That's
circle could
you still
interfere. Or could get
just
involved in
let
that
that
match.
go.
No, I'm not going to because again, they have logicals in every one of these things. They
Floyd is
Chris
not a
Chris
first
Jericho literally
member.
said he was the newest member of the inner circle in one episode of Dynamite.
You gotta let that one go.
He could have used any other object.
So if he had brought a different bat and it wasn't Floyd, you would have been okay with it.
I would have been okay with it. Yeah.
But because it was Floyd, it's a problem. And
He's a member of the inner circle. That's not disqualified, but the Labor Jericho should have been over. I mean
I don't think Floyd ever went through the face turn, so I don't think he's still a member of the inner circle.
The third one I had no problem with. This fourth one, if the stipulation is that MJF is at ringside, the referee should not have the authority to throw him out of ringside.
Right, and or he should have been more involved in the match than he was.
He should have been, but my point is, if the stipulation for the match is that MJF is to be at ringside, the referee should not have the authority to throw him out.
And I thought the stipulation was going to be MJF as the referee. And
that's certainly what he implied after the last match against Hulu.
Yeah, and because he wasn't the referee, I was disappointed from the start. Because otherwise, the way it was is if there was no stipulation to it, it was just a match against Wardlow. I just read this though. And when you look back at it, it kind of hits home a little bit. But it says MJF, Wardlow, and Spears looked like 80s synth pop villains in a closing scene. MJF was sleek with his suit colors, Wardlow's ponytail messed up into a new wave hairstyle, and Spears voguing in the background. It was certainly a cutthroat cadre of miscreants suitable for Miami Vice.
That's great.
And he's right, because that's the way that the show went off the air.
Yeah.
Was it looked like, you know, MJF the big boss and Wardlow his hitman and Spears just kind of looking pretty. It was great.
Yeah, I just think there's been so many missteps with this 5 Labors of Jericho, and I don't understand why they're wrestling next week on Dynamite instead of wrestling at All Out either. I mean, I know they've done it for like 5 straight weeks, so I'm sure something else will happen to set up something for All Out, but it's so weird with doing this thing. The matches have mostly the matches have mostly been good, but just the way that they've kind of gone around the stipulations, I have not liked.
Yeah, and I didn't like the fact there technically was not a stipulation in the last match. It was just a one-on-one match with him and Wardlow.
Yeah.
Although Wardlow getting browbeaten by MJF in the back, saying that he better not screw this up like he did in the cage match, and then Wardlow crushing that apple with his hand was a nice little bit of foreshadowing for a potential Wardlow face turn.
He didn't really browbeat him, I agree with you, but he didn't really browbeat him. I did like that scene though, and I was going to mention that where he's like, I'm gonna beat Jericho tonight, and then MJF's like, oh, it's like he did Cody in the cage, bud.
Yeah, and I like I'm liking the whole him calling everybody bud too. It's so just downgrading. You know, it's like what you call your child. Hey, buddy, come here. You know, and him eating the apple was a nice touch too. I don't know why I liked it so much, but it was just a nice touch having him take a bite of the apple and talk while he's chewing it and stuff. It was fun. I think his promo work, it's funny because I already felt like he was one of the best in the business, but every week when he cuts a promo, it seems like he's getting better at it.
Yeah, he is.
And he's bringing in new little wrinkles like this apple. He did this time to make it feel fresh and not just him talking. But the way he talks, he's got it down. He's like a cross between Jake Roberts and The Rock, uh, where he's got that charisma, but it's more of a low talking charisma.
Yeah. And I also like the way that, we talked about like wrestling catchphrases before too, but he always finds an interesting way to get his catchphrase in.
Yeah.
know?
And his catchphrase isn't an easy catchphrase to get in.
No.
But he figures out how to do it every single time, and it works, and it's not forced. It's not, like shoved down our throats. A lot of times he doesn't scream it. He doesn't even sound angry. It's just like this last one. He goes, and you know it.
And I
I'll
think
be better than you.
and I think a lot of that is I'm gonna do another real brilliant segue for us here, Jeff. If you bear with me just a second, I think a lot of that is just the freedom that these AEW guys have to do their own promos and to just be themselves. And that's, I think, why I've enjoyed Christian so much more in AEW and Impact than I ever did in WWE, where he
Yep.
he feels like he's having more fun. He feels like he has some freedom to do what he wants to do, both in the ring and out. He just seems like a completely different guy outside of a WWE environment than he does anywhere else.
Yeah, I agree. And he, that was something I talked to you yesterday about that I kind of wanted to bring up. If you look at Christian, he has left WWE twice, technically 3 times, I guess, because he retired. But then he came back to WWE, and then he left in a third time, whatever, of his own accord. He's never been fired. He's never been released. He's never asked for his release. He's never talked them into shortening his contract. He does his contractual duties, and then he goes somewhere else to prove himself. And he went to TNA for what, about 3 years, I think he was in TNA, and he really developed himself from that mid-carder to a main eventer. And then when he came back to WWE, unfortunately it was on ECW, but he was the ECW champion. He held that title for a while, and then when ECW disbanded, then all of a sudden he was the he ended up with the gold belt. Granted, it was like for 14 hours, but still, this is a guy who was never better than a mid card. He wasn't even an upper mid card guy. He was a mid card guy.
Right.
In meaningless feuds, the only feud that he ever really had while he was, him and his peeps or whatever it was, Captain Charisma, was his feud against Jericho when they were betting on things with those 2 women. I can't remember who they were.
It was Trish and Lita, right?
I know it was Trish, but I don't think it was Lita. I thought it was somebody else.
Okay.
I thought
Stacey,
it was another
maybe?
blonde. Maybe.
It was Stacey.
Maybe. But I mean, and then for him to take that and go to TNA, and he was able to, like I said yesterday, essentially Christian to me is one of the founding fathers of the TNA once it became mainstream. When it was, when it was on a non-national channel, when it was on the weekly pay-per-view, you had the originals, AJ, Jarrett, Frankie, Sabin, James Storm, and those guys, those would be considered the founders. But the modern TNA, what we know of TNA and Impact now, really got its start when Christian showed up, a couple months after their TNA deal. So, and then Rhino, of course, was there, Jeff Hardy, and Team 3D, and people like that. But Christian, to go there and prove himself to be a main eventer, then go back to WWE and be a main eventer, and then now leave WWE again under his own accord to sign with AEW, and do everything that he's done with AEW. He walked in, he said, I'm not looking for a title shot. I want to earn my title shot. So what did he do? He went on like a 15 match undefeated streak. And then he gets his main event shot and he shines. And he brings the Impact belt back home. He said essentially back home. You know, he's still an AEW talent, but I still look at him as a TNA guy.
I think Christian also is. Well, first of all, I was making an analogy to what you said about his time in WWE because, Conrad Thompson has said a couple of times on My World with Jeff Jarrett, like, you were assistant manager like 7 times when you were the Intercontinental Champion. You never got a chance to be the manager. And Christian's kind of the same way, except he got like a 2-week run as the manager, right? He had he held her for 2 days, and he held her for like 2 more weeks after that or something. So like total of 16 times.
Did he have it that long?
Yeah. Like that's only like 16 days, I think, as the world heavyweight champion.
I loved his whole gimmick there. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but his whole gimmick there was just one more match. Just give me one more. I loved that whole run that he had against Randy Orton. And if he was already a Hall of Famer before that, but that feud with Randy Orton really put him into that next stratosphere. Especially
that organization, yeah. But I also want to say that, speaking of him being a founding father type guy in TNA on their national level, I think he also has to get at least some of the credit for the way AJ Styles was able to change his personality. It really irritated me that AJ was kind of put in that position after already being an NWA World Champion before, where he had kind of played third fiddle almost to Tomko and Christian. But at the same time, I do think that, along with his time with Flair, let's be fair with that too. Along with his time with Flair in Fortune, but I think his time with Christian and Flair both in those situations kind of helped AJ to develop more as a character to where he's able to be like the top level character that we see now, not just a top fight in ring wrestler, but actually develop a character for his wrestling.
He was the best wrestler in the world, in ring talent. His time with Christian. And I don't look at him as the third string with Tomko and Team Christian. I actually look at him as the highlight of that group, because we saw a side of AJ and a personality with AJ and comedic timing with AJ that we didn't see before and have never seen since. But he's been able to, that character development, you can see in what he does now. Well, I guess I can't tell you what he does now because I haven't seen it in a while. But and then I think taking that and his character development there, and then Fortune with Flair, especially after Fortune turned on the main event or Hogan's group, whoever they were, I think that made him
immortal.
Yeah, Fortune was was Abyss's secret that he had, and it ended up where Fortune actually turned on Flair and Immortal and went off on their own. And I think their run as Fortune, and his run especially, really cemented him as one of the best ever. Mm-hmm. When you look at all aspects of his character, everything leading up to it, especially his time with Christian, and there too. I don't think if he had that time with Christian that he would have developed to where he is. He'd still be considered one of the greatest wrestlers ever, but now he's one of the greatest performers of all time.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's why I just want to point that out. That I think Christian, not only is he I think he's like more freedom outside of WWE, but I think he also is just works with talent so much. He has the freedom to work with the talent in the way he wants to work with them to develop outside of that.
Right, and I like his connection with Jungle Boy too. Damn cat.
Jeff is single-handedly bringing back the cat team.
I lost my train of thought thanks to Tubby running past me.
You like the way he works with Jungle Boy.
Yeah, I like the way he's working with Jungle Boy, because he's kind of, Jungle Boy is one of the hottest stars in AEW. No question. He might be the hottest star in AEW. When I heard that pop that he had,
it's tough. It's between him and Britt. And it's tough to. it's tough because Britt was in Pittsburgh this week, so it's kind of not really a fair comparison. So,
Yeah,
I think really, it's really between him and Britt Baker.
and I think Paige is still up there. I think as far as the men go, it might be Paige and Jungle Boy kind of sharing the spotlight. But that pop he got, that first live show with fans again, I don't know that I've heard a pop like that in years. I think the last time I really heard a huge pop like that was Edge when he showed up at Royal Rumble.
Yeah, probably.
So and considering it was middle of the show, they'd already had a chance to cheer for Darby and Jericho and everybody, and then to have Jungle Boy come out there and the roof just explode was he is probably one of the most popular people on that roster.
Yeah,
And to
absolutely.
have and to have Christian and Luchasaurus working with him is only going to do good things for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's definitely. I mean, when you look at the guys in AEW, I mean, the guys that you know are for sure future world champions, as long as no kind of tragedy happens or something. It's Hangman, it's Jungle Boy, and it's Dark. You know,
And
those are
MJF.
the three. Oh
And
yeah, and
MJF.
MJF. Yeah, yeah. I guess on the baby side, I guess I was on the baby side of those guys. And then and then Sammy will probably get there. But you can't. I don't think we can say Sammy for sure like we probably would have 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think Sammy now with his face run and being as good as he is at it, I think he is still in that echelon where it's going to be him and MJF, kind of the face heel, Rock Austin type thing. But yeah, I definitely agree with those guys. Darby, I kind of go back and forth on. Like I feel like he's got the potential. I feel like but I don't know if fans are ever going to get behind him in the long run as the top draw.
I think he's still one of the most popular guys in the company.
I think he is, but he can.
Go ahead.
I think he is, but he can still be a popular guy and a good mid card draw. I don't know that he's main event draw.
Why is that?
I don't. There's just something off about his character. Maybe if his character develops a little bit, it just doesn't scream to me this is main event character material.
But Jungle Boys does.
Jungle Boys does simply because his character is just that goody two shoes, ho hum, look at me doing the right thing by everybody. He could be a top face. He would never work as a heel. He'd never. Darby, I think the only way that Darby really ever gets to that echelon is with a heel turn.
I don't know. I mean, to me, Darby Allin has a character, and Jungle Boy doesn't really have. I mean, Jungle Boy.
Yeah, but
he kind of, like you said, he's just like soft spoken. He's a nice guy. He's goody two shoes. But to me, I mean, he's got over with his athleticism, not with his character. Whereas I think Darby's character too.
He's got Jungle Boy has the aw shucks athletic ability type of thing that AJ had in 04, 05 when he was the NWA World Champion before he developed his character with Christian and so on. That's the same feel I get from Jungle Boy. He's athletic, he's a great in-ring performer, and he's got that aw shucks boyish charm that AJ had. And that's why I look at him and think, okay, AJ did it. Absolutely, Jungle Boy could do it as well. I think for sustainability and long run, he's going to have to add some more depth to his character. But I think he could get to the top of the card with the character he has now.
I think it'd be really fun if we could put together like a how they had the original X Division championship match to crown the champion was that 4-man double elimination match.
Oh,
I think we do something with that like with Ray Phoenix versus Jungle Boy versus Darby Allin versus Who else do I want to throw in there? Like Ethan Page. I think that'd be like really fantastic.
Whatever happened to the best man ever? I know Ethan Page has kind of been doing his own thing. I haven't seen Scorpio Sky in forever.
I think they're probably wrestling quite a bit on Elevation and Dark.
Maybe.
Because we really haven't seen them since their feud with we haven't really seen them since Cage's feud with or being Page's feud with
Darby.
a couple weeks ago, right?
And we haven't seen them together except months before that.
Well, Page needed to be off screen for a while, right? Because he was buried in the coffin.
Right.
So he had to be off screen for a while. So that makes sense.
Yeah, but Scorpio Sky just disappearing. Like Scorpio Sky disappeared even before that.
Well, they're an act.
What?
They're an act.
Oh, okay.
Like you wouldn't have Miss Elizabeth come out without much of them. You know, they're an act.
Yeah, true. I still think their tag team is the best name ever. Best men ever.
So
Or
I
the
actually
best men
got
of the year or something like that.
yeah, the men of the year. That's what it was.
Men of the year.
Getting back to Christian a little bit, I accidentally got spoiled on who won the Battle Royal for Impact. Are you aware of who won that?
No, I'm not.
Would you like to know?
I'll find out. I'll Google it now. If I have to, you don't tell me, so you might as well tell me.
Okay, well, the Impact's next special is next Friday, and Christian
Okay.
Cage is going to be defending the world title against the most professional wrestler, Brian. I know it's a little bit underwhelming, isn't it?
Maybe it's underwhelming because Brian's doing some great work in Impact and reviving his career, much like he did on the Indies after he got fired from WWE the first time. But they did so much damage to him in that second run that he had with them that it's almost hard to believe him or Matt Cardona, for that matter, being like Matt Cardona being the GCW champion is doing some fantastic, just amazing heel work right now, which is not something I would have ever expected out of him. But he's playing up his Zack Ryder radio gimmick to the top and just getting underneath the GCW people's skin to the point where I think I saw him. He had a picture of himself, a tweet that he had made where he was toasting the belt with a piece of pizza from Long Island. And he did it solely just to piss off fans. And it's great the heel work that he's doing with them and his Moxley impersonation when he came and debuted against Nick Gage, I'm sorry, and all that. But they still, because of how poorly they were treated in WWE, it almost feels like it's too soon to take them as serious world title contenders.
Well, and if I was going to, it wouldn't be Myers because Myers keeps losing to Cardona. And then it seems, and it feels like Impact, has not separated those guys out. I mean, they're supposed to have that big blowout match, and then they're still like facing off against each other every week. It feels like. I really wish they would separate that out. And so to me, that's like the second bad decision that Impact's made in a couple of weeks. Like one of the first one was having W. Morrissey lose to Eddie Edwards. And the second one
which was dumb.
Yeah.
That was dumb. I think, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I know, go ahead with the second one.
And the second one is Brian Myers winning the Battle Royal based off against Christian because there's no way to ever believe he's ever going to win that championship. You know,
I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah, but W. Morrissey never should have lost to Eddie Edwards. Should have been the guy that won this Battle Royal. And then maybe suffer his first loss against the KG veteran who just won the title. Would have been much, much better of an idea for Morrissey's character. Because he could go into that match, put on a strong performance, beat the holy hell out of Christian to still look dominant, and then lose because the KG veteran outsmarted him.
I think Impact's getting a lot of mileage out of their championships being on Dynamite every week. So I wouldn't take the title off Christian at this point.
No, I wouldn't.
But my booking for Morrissey would have been he basically crushes everybody until he actually wins that world championship. and then the guy that beats him for it is Moose. Like Moose, because I mean, yeah, Moose is an asshole too, but at the same time, if he's building up these credible wins against guys like Saban, other guys like that, eventually the crowd's going to be like back in his corner, right? And then eventually you have this big match between Moose and Morrissey for it would have been the way I would have personally done. And maybe they
Well,
still will, but I don't think that. But I don't think Eddie needed to beat Morrissey, and I don't think Morrissey gained anything by losing to Eddie. You know, so I really don't. I mean, unless they're going to say like, well, the only way somebody can beat Morrissey is by hitting them with a chain in the head. Fine, but it was just I did not understand having him, basically dominate, Willie Mack and dominate, what the fuck is that other guy, Rishwan,
right.
dominate like three guys in the ring at a time, and then you lose to Eddie Edwards. I don't
Yeah,
get that.
it was not a good decision at all. And I was something you said there, like I mentioned on our pop culture show that's actually coming up later this week, where we were discussing the middle four episodes of Titans, and then we just kind of went off the rails with Vampire Diaries and so much other stuff. But one of the things I mentioned is right now I'm watching a lot of the A&E biographies and the Dark Side of the Ring and the Wrestler and stuff like that. Um, just because I'm really enjoying these little docu-series. And
Mm-hmm.
somebody, and I don't remember which show it was, the I think it was the Savage one, where somebody had mentioned, and it makes perfect sense, because you see it all the time, where when you've got somebody that talented who is putting on matches and showing his athleticism and crushing people and is an asshole, just a straight up asshole, he's a heel. Eventually, at some point, wrestling fans start to recognize how great he is and they cheer him out of respect, which is what
Right.
happened with Randy Savage. That's why Randy Savage turned face in the first place, was because
Right.
he was just so good at what he did that people started to respect him and they would cheer for him. And they're like, oh, he's getting positive reactions now. Let's turn him face. I think both Moose and W. Morrissey could have been guys that happened to. And I think Moose is probably further along in that because I'm starting to respect Moose a lot more now because of what he's doing on Impact and the performances he's putting out there. And it was the same thing with the Elite and Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega, when he first started going up against Okada, they were still technically heels with Bullet Club. And because people saw what he was doing with Okada, that kind of turned the Elite face between
Right.
him and the Bucks, and that started the feud with the Bucks and Nick and then of course they made up when Kenny finally won the title and the whole faction turned face. But it was Kenny and the respect that he started getting from the fans that really started to push them towards the face side. I see that happening with Moose.
Yeah, I mean, and Moose's improvement is like astronomical, right? Like if I told you 2 years ago we're gonna get Moose versus Ishii, we'd be like, yeah. But when I
Right.
told you it was happening last night, you're like, holy shit.
Right. And it and
I felt exactly the same way. I have not watched the match yet, but I'll watch it sometime this week, and I really want to see it. You know.
yeah, and it was the same thing with Taichi. Like Taichi 3 years ago, and I think I was the one that first told you I'm starting to enjoy Taichi.
Right.
You're like, what? What? No, come on, he's terrible. And then like 3, 4 matches later, you're like, okay, I get it now. And now you mentioned it that you just watched a match with him, and you can't imagine him being that guy that was so bad 3 years ago. And I can't remember who you said the match is against, but I'm definitely going to watch that match. Um,
Well, he's got. It was actually three matches. It was his tag title match with ZSJ against Naito and Sonata,
Sonata,
and then he has singles matches against both Naito and Sonata. Both of them, he's just outstanding. I mean, and New Japan has
he's
so many guys. New Japan has so many guys that tap on the shoulder, tell them you need him for a night, and they'll put on a great match. But Taichi is
right,
just. He's gotten to the point where I think, what is he, like 38, 39 years old now, something like that.
something
And I
like that. Yeah,
and and and
he's
I
not young.
and I think he's just one of those guys that, well, first of all, I think moving from junior to heavyweight like really put a fire under his ass. But also, I think that he's also just one of these guys that just gets better with age. And I really think that right now, if you had me name like the top 10 wrestlers in the world right now, I probably would have Tai Chi in that list. And I would not have imagined
Uh,
3 years ago. So
I don't know if I'd have him in a top 5, maybe a top 10.
I said top 10. I did not say top.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought I heard you say 5.
No.
He was born in 1980, so he's not that old.
1980?
Yeah. I
He's
guess
born in
so. It's 41
1980.
years. So he's 41. Yeah, he's
Yeah, I was
41.
gonna say. I say if he's 1980, he's born 41. So.
Well,
Okay,
he
so he's
was
41.
he
So
was a
a little older
young
than I thought.
he was a young lion when Okada was. Because I remember they had their little feud about how he was upset that Okada came back and got the title push, and when he was a young lion and he had to go through the juniors.
Yep, he was, and also they also were saying on or Kevin Kelly was saying on one of these broadcasts that he actually at one point was 3-0 against Naito because Naito was a young lion when Tai Chi was an established wrestler, and now it's like they're 5-5.
You want to know something that is just flat out outstanding?
What's
Think
that?
of how long Okada has been the top of NJPW, one of the best in the world,
Yeah,
and then understand that he is only 33 years old right now.
right.
He is, and then you look at Jay White. Jay White is in that same stratosphere as Okada, and he's still a ridiculously young guy too.
Yeah,
Because I want to say
White, Osprey, Hangman, MJF, Sammy. You know, they're all the
I mean, Jay White's 28, so he's like 5 years younger than Okada. But he's on that same trajectory that Okada was, because Okada's been kind of the top draw for about 8 years. Jay's been kind of a top draw for about 4 years now.
right.
So, they're kind of on that same level. Osprey's there, MJF is there, all still really young guys. But it's amazing to look at Okada and realize that he has been the best wrestler in the world for quite a while, or one of the best wrestlers in the world for quite a while, and he's only 33.
Right.
But anyway, mainly the reason I brought that up is because I'm so used to, AJ wasn't really considered one of the best wrestlers in the world until he was 33, 34, 35. Flair was in his 40s before he was, I mean, granted, yeah, he in the 80s, late 70s, he was the top draw in the NWA and leader of the Four Horsemen, but people didn't really slap that best wrestler in the world on him until, his mid to late 30s.
Well, there was one time, and you and I talked about this before. There was, at one point in time, if you were not a superstar before you were 30, you weren't going to be a superstar, right?
Right.
And and now I think 30, maybe 35 is the new 30 or something.
Jay White.
We do have these young guys coming up that are superstars, but at the same time, like I don't feel like you have just because we've had guys now that have wrestled in their 60s, 70s. Where it doesn't feel like you have to really hit that peak level before you're 30 to actually hit the peak level.
It is really funny when you look back at the Hollywood Blondes and their WCW run when they were trashing Flair and Hogan, or I'm sorry, Flair and Arn Anderson for being old. And I think Arn was 38 at the time and Flair was 40. And now you look at it and you've got Japan especially has 50-some-year-olds wrestling. AEW has a 63-year-old wrestling. Triple A last night had a 72-year-old in the ring. You're right. It's not 40 in wrestling is not old anymore.
No, it's not. And you mentioned it again, so I'm just going to go back to that. Like, it really was a special moment seeing Ric Flair come out last night.
Yeah, it was.
When Ric Flair got released, Ric Flair asked for his release last week from AEW, and I was like, from WWE, I was like, I really don't want to see him in AEW. Now I can't see that. Now I can't see that. If he shows up at All Out, I'm going to be thrilled because I was last night watching him walk out in Triplemania. So
It's nice because he's got that freedom now. He's got the freedom now like he did back in his WCW days, which I'm sorry to any WWE fans, but there's no freedom in WWE. None at all. And they proved it this last week with the whole NXT thing. And I know that's something we haven't talked about on the air yet, but because it just happened, what, Thursday? This last Thursday?
I don't remember.
Where Sean and Triple H, Paul Levesque are no longer in charge of NXT. It's now
Right.
Vince and whoever this Khan guy, Michael Khan or whatever his name is. Basically the wrong Khan. Tony Khan is the right Khan, and whoever this guy's the wrong one. But
Right.
they are now in charge of talent, which is why people like Bronson Reed got let go. And Bronson Reed, with the way that they pushed him, and I remember talking about it, I felt like it was too soon for him to win the title. I felt like they pushed him to the moon way too soon. But for a guy like him to be let go after the run that he just had blows my mind. Absolutely
Yeah.
blows my mind.
Yeah. They said they didn't want anybody, they didn't want anybody that was small anymore. They didn't want anybody that was in their late 30s. They didn't want anybody that was indie darling. Well, Bronson Reed doesn't fit any of those patterns. He's 32,
No.
but he's huge, and I had never heard of him before he came to NXT. I mean, yeah, he wrestled on the Australian independent scene, but he wasn't like one of these indie guys that was wrestling like for WXW or anything like that even. So it's just bizarre that we were the guys that they.
Yeah, they said what was their rules? They want it. They don't no more midgets and no more people starting in their 30s.
Right.
Basically, they want big guys who are in their early 20s, which is a mistake. I mean, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, what they've done in NXT since 2012 when it debuted has shown that you don't have to be 6'8" and 300 pounds to be a good performer. Seth Rollins, I mean, Roman Reigns is one of those big guys, but he's one of the exceptions. I mean, even Jesus Christ, even look at Randy Orton. Randy Orton isn't a huge guy, huge jacked guy. I mean, I guess he's jacked, but he's not one of those giants. And he's proven that you don't have to be 6'4", 250 to be a main event level talent. Bryan Danielson, another one example. CM Punk, another example. So I don't understand why Vince, after almost 10 years of learning that you don't have to be that giant to be a successful main eventer, why has it not clicked with him?
Apparently, Triple H losing the Wednesday Night War to Dynamite got people in Vince's ear that Triple H didn't know what he was doing.
He was never going to win that. He was never going to win that war. Never, not from day one. And anybody that thought he was is ridiculous. They took the one thing that made NXT special, and that's that 1 hour, not overloading the program, making it so that you could follow characters and enjoy their story, but not getting absorbed with it. And they stretched it to 2 hours, and now all of a sudden we're getting overrun like regular WWE TV with the stories, seeing the same matches over and over and over again, and so on. And there was no way they could have put Friday Night SmackDown on Fox up against that, and I guarantee that it would have struggled against Dynamite, because Dynamite had the top 5 wrestlers in the world debuting for them. They were a brand new indie darling that all the smarks and everybody that was fed up with WWE and their product, they were going to watch it. And it's growing and growing and growing, and they've got good storytelling, they've got a good product, they put on amazing matches. NXT didn't have a chance in their so-called war.
No, they didn't. I agree with you, but I'm just telling you that's what I read is that that's what the Triple H is down. But also, I mean, logically, I understand the idea. I understand the idea of WWE is the land of the giants, quote unquote. It's always been, and not always because, but this is the connotation. Like it's always been like Hogan and Savage, and and Savage wasn't a big guy either, but Hogan, King Kong Bundy, those guys. But where are you going to find them? I mean, you got Roman Reigns, you got Braun Strowman that have come through the last, I don't know, 15 years or whatever, 10 years, whatever
And you
it's
let
been.
Braun Strowman go.
Yeah, but I mean
You
that
know?
but I mean theoretically those are the kind of guys you're looking for, right? They don't grow
Mm.
on trees. You know, you're not going to find them. You're not going to get a whole bunch of people coming off the football field doing this kind of shit, right? So I
Right.
mean, where are you going to find these guys that you're going to put through the NXT system? You know, and if you're going to do that, you're going to start by releasing guys like Bobby Fish that can help them to learn how to learn their craft. You know, I don't understand it at all. You know, it does not make any sense.
And who is this guy from the Diamond Mine that they just released? You know, the Diamond Mine that just debuted as one of the best,
Tyler
hottest
Rust.
factions. Yeah, and they just released him, who was basically the spokesperson for Diamond Mine.
Oh, Roddy won't be far behind.
Right. Yeah, and it just blows my mind. The best thing that they had going for them, and they just ruined it. How long can the tribal chief keep up this momentum that he's got? You know, I will say that the work he's doing is good from what I understand. He was always a good in-ring talent. I just didn't like his vanilla thing. I think one of the best moments by Reigns and when they should have capitalized on a heel turn was after he beat The Undertaker and stood in the ring while wrestling fans just destroyed him, booing mercifully, and wouldn't let him get a word in. And he stood there and took it and then just uttered, "It's my yard now," and walked out. That moment is when they should have turned him heel, and I think it would have made him a much, much bigger star back then. And it took them way too long to turn him heel.
I used to really enjoy him in the ring, and I used to really enjoy Drew McIntyre in the ring. But I tell you, like when I watched those two festivals off against each other, what was it last year at Survivor Series? The match was unwatchable to me, and you had people saying it was the match of the year in WWE, but it was unwatchable to me. You know, so I don't really, you know, so he may be doing great work. I did not, you know, you and I both did not really enjoy his match against Kevin Owens either, though, at Royal
No,
Rumble. You know, so I mean, it's
that was because of the botched ending, though.
partly,
That was
but
mainly, yeah.
yeah, I mean, but I don't know. I mean, Reigns as a character, he's probably great right now, but I still nothing I really wanted to sink my teeth into because, like I said, when I tried to watch it, I've been disappointed.
Yeah,
I do kind of want to. Now that you sent me that clip though of the John Cena promo from the other day, I'd like to. Is there any place I can actually watch that whole promo at?
it's got to be on YouTube somewhere. I'm sure on the WWE channel or something. All I saw was that one clip, and that clip was great. You know,
Well, because
what did he say?
well, the reason I ask is I know like on USA Network, like I can watch like a replay of Raw, but is there a place I can watch a replay of SmackDown?
Hulu.
Hulu, that's right. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I could like
Hulu has them all.
so I could find that whole segment on Hulu if I wanted to. That's right. Okay. Thank you.
And now that I just remembered that, that's where I'm going now. It's just we're done with this because I completely forgot that SmackDown's on Hulu. Yeah, they have their own WWE page on Hulu, or you could probably watch it on Peacock. Isn't SmackDown on Peacock?
No, because SmackDown is on Fox.
That's messed up.
It'll be on. I mean, it will be on Peacock after like 30 days. But
Oh, okay.
but I don't. But I think both Raw and SmackDown they're like 30 days behind on Peacock or something because the cutter with
Kind of. Well, they used to be that way on WWE Network too.
right.
You know, they were on, you know, because they were on USA. The new versions were a month behind.
I can double check right now, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. Like if
But yeah,
like if this week's Raw's on there right now, then maybe they changed it. You know what I mean?
and I know we're running a little bit short on time here. But one thing we
sorry.
really wanted to talk about was like I think Christian, when you look at Christian and what he's accomplished in his career, the way he's accomplished it, he's a good promo guy. He's a great in-ring performer. I mean, Jesus Christ, his name was Captain Charisma, for Christ's sake. Looking at him all time, I put him up there as one of the all-time greats. And I know you kind of wanted to rank the TLC guys from WrestleMania, the tag team TLC, those 6 guys, where they rank in history.
Right.
I think Devon would have to be the lowest. And then
Absolutely. And I have
and then,
a question with that.
because I mean, seriously, he's got to be number 6 out of 6 because he's the only one of the group that's never won a world title.
Right.
From there, I don't know where to rank him. Because do you put Jeff ahead of Bubba with his bully work, or would Jeff be behind because Jeff's character's never really evolved? He's just been a daredevil, where Bully was able to change his entire style and there for a while he was the best heel in the business during his Aces and Eights run.
Yeah, I don't feel like Jeff ever really made it as a top level character. I mean, and part of that is because of the drug that factors into it too. That's part of his that's part of his human being, right? I mean,
Right.
the drug he's never been a reliable. He's never been reliable. He's been on top, and he's never been because either he was going to leave or he didn't want to go to rehab or he was just on drugs and couldn't be trusted. It's the same thing with Rob Van Dam. RVD could have been a great top level performer too, except for he got caught with marijuana and got blackballed right after he won the WWE championship. So
Right.
it's kind of that same type of scenario where I don't think you can put Jeff Hardy that high on this list either. So I probably would put Jeff Hardy below Bully Ray.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, those are the bottom 3: Bully Ray, Jeff, and Devon.
Yeah, so it would be so I okay, and that's I don't know because I'd probably go Devon and then Jeff, and then I might go Edge after that. I mean,
see, and that's where I was going to say that
Edge is an outstanding performer, but he also like Bully Ray was still doing great work when Edge was sitting at home.
Yep.
Or acting because he couldn't wrestle.
And Edge had a great run. He had great feuds with Cena. He had a great run as the Rated R superstar. I thought he was exceptional when he was teamed up with Vicky Guerrero and all that stuff. I thought he was great, but ultimately, you're right. It's hard to say which one of those two should be 3 and 4, or 2 and 3, or wait, no,
3 or 4.
Yeah, it's hard to say which one of those two should be 3 and 4 because you're right. I think when it comes down to it, the absolute top 2 are Matt and Christian. Matt has done such great work his entire career, and he's still doing it. And regardless of if people hate this whole Matt family office or Hardy family office gimmick and Big Money Matt or not, he is like Chris Jericho. He's done nothing but reinvent
I was going to say exactly
over
the same
and
thing.
over and over again. I agree that the top 2, like whether you have Devon a little ahead of Edge or Edge a little ahead of Devon, that's fine. But there's no question the top 2 are Christian and Matt Hardy. His broken character, his V1 character, is still ranks among my favorite characters that he ever did. The stuff he did with MVP when he was trying to lose weight to get down to the cruiserweight championship, so he was wearing all those sweatsuits all the time. Just great stuff. And then he goes to Impact or TNA at the time, and he has that amazing feud with EC3. They pulled off the double turn, which is very difficult to do. I still never really saw EC3 as a face, but Hardy as a heel was perfect. And then to morph that into the broken Hardy character, it was just great. He's just been great. And I loved his when he debuted with AEW, they brought him in as the broken character, but they also let him explore all of the other characters that he had done. There was a time when he was back to his original Hardy Boys gimmick. And then he did the Brood Hardy Boys gimmick. And then he did he had his V1 gimmick for a week or a match or whatever. He's just been a great performer. and he continues to evolve, and he continues to get better.
And it's funny that the two guys that WWE kind of saw as the Genettis of their teams, right, are the two guys that we think are the best two out of the bunch. You know, the two guys that have shown the most growth and development over their careers, who have had the best matches outside of that company in their careers, have done the best character work outside of that company in their careers. And you know, love him or hate him, if there wasn't for Matt Hardy's broken character, we probably wouldn't have the cinematic match. You know, he's
Right,
the one
exactly.
that made it. If he didn't invent it, he at least copied. He's at least the one that popularized it. You know, he's the one that made it really mean something with those broken segments on it. You know,
Yep.
the Hardy compound segments, all of those, the final deletion, etc. You know, so I as much as I love Christian, I think Matt would probably be number one for me.
I
But
think so too. And I was
go ahead.
just going to say that I think I was just going to say that I think he slightly edges out Christian because of the way he's been able to reimagine himself over and over again. Where Christian is a phenomenal in-ring performer. He's one of the best in the history of the business on the mic. He's a great teacher, a great talent. He's got charisma oozing out of him. But if you look at Christian, since he became Captain Charisma and left his Edge and Christian 5-second pose persona and he became Captain Charisma, he's not really changed his character up much.
No.
He just continues to go out there and deliver. That's his shining spot. So I think as far as the best performer of that entire group, I have to agree. I think it's Matt Hardy.
Well, and as far as not even changing his character, like you and I, as soon as his music hit AEW and the screen hit, we knew exactly who it was.
Right.
You know,
and we geeked out on it. So if you think about it, even Hulk Hogan had to change his character. Flair has had to change his character. Every one of the greats, Jericho has had to change up his character. It's a testament that Christian has never had to change his character, and he's still over the way that he is.
It is. The other thing that Matt did that I don't think, you know, that just to me is another checkbox in this corner is he left Impact, right? Or TNA, I can't remember which was at the time, but he left there and still managed to blow up Twitter by having a tag team match in Ring of Honor out of nowhere.
Right.
You know, I mean,
right.
he blew, you know, the internet blew up because that happened. Where he and Jeff showed up, they challenged the Bucks for the tag titles. They won them at a house show. You know, and you know, after the Bucks had already defended them, and that just like blew up the internet, which is something that I don't think Christian has ever really done. You know, so
no, and then he did it again when they debuted at WrestleMania that year.
Because they wrestled the ladder war the night before the ladder match the night before.
Yep.
At was it Supercard of Honor or was it the anniversary show? Supercard of Honor.
I don't remember.
And then the next night, then they lost to the Bucks, and the next night they show up at WrestleMania and win
the tag belts.
Win the tag belts in a 4-way ladder match. Yeah.
Yep, they lost the tag belts in a ladder match to Briscoes, and then they won the belts the next night at WrestleMania.
The tease of that was so great too, because the New Day were the host of the show, and we thought they were going to have a match. They come out, they go, "Oh, there's one more team in this match," and you kind of think it's the New Day, but nope, it's the Hardys.
Right. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Christian has never really blown up the internet the way that Matt has. But yeah, I seriously think it's Matt then Christian, and then it depends on personal preference. Maybe Bully career-wise could be a little bit ahead of Edge, but what Edge did in the mid to late, what do they call them, aughts, 2000s was just some incredible work.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking more as you were talking, and I think Edge has to be number 3 because even just for 2000, just for 2008,
right?
Edge has to be number 3.
His run with Vicky, that Rated R character with Lita, he was just so good that I think I would have him slightly ahead of I don't know to call him Bubba or Bully or whatever, but when you look at Bubba, he was a great character in ECW. That character he tried to do in WWE, it didn't really translate. So they became the table guys. Then his Team 3D thing was kind of stale. It wasn't until his heel turn and he really became Bully Ray that he really kind of escaped what he was before and became a great heel. And then when we were watching him against Flip Gordon in Ring of Honor, and the heel work he did there was absolutely phenomenal.
I wish that I hope that someday we have access to those impacts where he was turning into this Bully Ray character, because that really wasn't great heel work. I'd like to go back and watch again, but they're just not anywhere available right now because they're owned by Paramount.
Run
Sorry, I
by
really
who?
by Paramount because they were owned by Viacom. So Spike TV became the Paramount network, so they're owned by Paramount. Um, but that is like one of the tragedies of COVID, like in the wrestling world, right? Not like in life, not in the world, but in wrestling, is that we never got to see that Bully Ray story finish out. Where he was
Right.
going, where he was going to, he was not for if anybody would beat him, then he would leave his then he would quit. Otherwise, he would work out his contract. Well, now his contract's over with now, so we
Right,
never actually
exactly.
got to see that amazing story resolve itself.
Which I think could have been great with Flip, but Flip had already turned to the mercenary by then, right?
Right, it was Eli Isom that was trying this. Was actually
Oh,
trying
that's right. Yep, you're right.
to.
You're right. It was Eli. Um, and um, yeah, I really wish we would have been able to see an ending to that. But when you look at it, I kind of have Bully Ray behind Edge for the simple fact that Bully was never really stood out as anything special until
Right.
his Bully Ray run, where Edge, he stood out as an intercontinental champion, then the greatest faction of all time, the Brood. And then his work with Christian with the 5-second poses and all that stuff. And then, he goes to SmackDown and becomes just this one of the SmackDown 6, becomes a great champion. And then, like you said, his work in 08, that alone has him up there. But I can't put him ahead of Matt and Christian though.
In 2001, 2002, I would have said, if you'd asked me, like, going forward, who are going to be the superstars out of this, I would have said, number one, Jeff Hardy; number two, Edge; number three,
Yeah.
Christian; number four, Matt Hardy. So I mean, it's just crazy that the way that that Jeff kind of fell down that ladder, right, and the way that Bully kind of rose up a little. Where Bully, we actually have to debate because of that run that Bully made for himself as to whether it's him or Edge.
Well, and the funny thing is that Jeff Hardy never really had a character. He never developed a character. He's always been, the only thing that has really made him popular with the fans was his Daredevil antics, which sadly he's still doing. But he's never had any real character development. At
No, even
least,
when he had when he became Will of the Wisp, there was still really no character.
right. I mean, when he was his feud with CM Punk, there's no character development from him ever. He's just always been the Daredevil. And even Devon had character development throughout his.
Yeah.
I mean, when he was the Reverend Devon, I don't know. I still love that character when he was Reverend Devon, and I can't remember who Batista was his
Deacon Batista. Yeah.
Yeah, I personally, I might be in the minority, but I loved that run from Devon. I thought that was a phenomenal run from Devon. Um, and then his when he was the leader of Aces and Eights, and it came out that it was actually Bully that was the leader. I thought that was great work. As much as I hated Aces and Eights, I thought Devon did an amazing job there.
I love Aces and Eights.
So, to be honest, I know we put Devon as the lowest simply because he was the one that never won the world title. But now that I think about it, even though Jeff won the world title, the fact that Jeff has never really had a character and absolutely no character development in his entire career, I might actually put Jeff as the lowest.
Yeah, I can't do that. No, not with the career he's had. I can't say that he's on. I just can't.
It's hard for me that's a tough one. That's a very tough one because yes, Jeff won championships. He won them in Impact. He won them in WWE. But he's always been the same, always been the same. And Devon, his Reverend run and his run as Aces and Eights were just so good, so good.
Fair enough. All right, we're at our usual time limit here. So, anything else we want to cover?
No, I think we covered a lot, and I'm glad that I got to see Nature Boy, even though watching him put that figure four on was painful. I'm still glad that I got to see him outside of a WWE ring and hear the crowd pop for him. And even at 72 years old, the guy has just undeniable charisma around him.
He does absolutely. And guys, I want to say, if you haven't heard, I was wrong. Andrade did not make a championship last night.
I guess we didn't say that. Yeah, I think that was the right call. I really do. I think for both companies, that was the right call because it keeps Triple A on AEW TV because Kenny's going to parade that belt out there and he gets a lot more screen time than Andrade does. And Andrade,
Yeah, but
it doesn't.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
It doesn't convolute anything because I know we talked about it on the little 15-minute show we did, 20-minute show we did on Saturday, but I was afraid that having Andrade win would have convoluted what's going on in AEW.
I wasn't, and I think they also if he had won, then Andrade could have put that strap on the line all out against Pac too. So
True, very true.
Yeah.
I just hope that Kenny does defend the belt in AAA and not go a whole nother year before he does again.
I guess we'll see what happens.
But guys, if you like this anytime, feel free to, or please hit the like button, subscribe button, notification bell, all that stuff. Also, check out our other shows on the channel. We reviewed The Suicide Squad, which was a phenomenal movie. If you haven't seen it, see it, and check out the review. And we got some stuff coming up here that should be kind of fun.
Absolutely. Until next time, guys, thanks so much for watching. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
Goodbye.